Hello, this is John Pernay from Eye on Annapolis and the Maryland Crabs podcast with a special election crab cake episode for your listening pleasure. In June, we held a mayoral forum that was very, very well attended, and you can, and quite honestly you should, go listen to that one, and you can find it on themarylandcrabs.com. But today, we bring you the voices of all of the other candidates running for Alderperson. Well, all but one of them. Republican candidate for Ward 1, Larry Clausen, did not respond to any of our requests. While we would have liked to have presented a forum or a debate with these 17 individuals, it just wasn't practical. So, we took it to the road so you can learn a little bit more about each of them in order to help us all make an informed vote. All of the questions were essentially the same to keep it fair, and we are releasing them all at the same time. Tune in and listen as your candidates answer some crucial questions about the city of Annapolis and how they plan to handle it should they be successful. Thanks for listening, enjoy, and be sure to vote. And we're down here at City Dock Coffee down in lovely Ward 1 overlooking Eco Alley. And we have Ms. Elly Tierney, who is candidate for Ward 1 Alderman with us today. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for doing this, John.
You've got a great place because you can walk everywhere.
Oh, the one problem is I take it for granted, and I don't allow time, especially now. I'll be there in 5 minutes, and then I meet someone and I start gabbing. But
hey, let's talk a little bit about your candidacy here. And you've been running for quite a while. You've been knocking on all the doors, I know. And what specifically have you found that Ward 1 is really up in arms about? Not just up in arms, but what is their main concerns going into this election?
Well, it's interesting because I have been door knocking, and I guess we'd probably have to forget about the last couple of weeks because right now it is Market House. All of a sudden, Market House just got up there on the list of topics. This is just sort of disappointing, but one of the major concerns is the parking issue, and then also not having knowledge of what's going on. It's really weird. People don't know what's going on. It's not, I don't know if you'd address that as a concern. For example, when the Market House RFP was out and all that, I would ask them door knocking, what do you think? What do you mean, and that kind of thing. And, well, we don't get, we really don't hear much about what's going on. And and I tell them there's a ton of vehicles. In fairness to Alderman Budge, he sends out what he's doing. Every city council meeting, you have an opportunity to voice your opinion. And maybe I'm talking about my own, reaction to what I hear. I find that really, upsetting. But then at the same time, when there is an issue that concerns them, all bets are off and they're out in full force. Depending where you are, this is really important. It's unbelievable, John, is crime. And I have to be careful saying this because I don't want, we're not, crime infested. But I was up it was Murray Hill. His houses, John, their houses, people have climbed in their windows and stolen things. And that really is alarming to me, and they have a dog and, and so now, and you notice this, what's very prevalent is when I knock on doors, I was at a door and this woman pulled into the driveway. She said, I knew you were there. That kind of creeped me out because she got a text because she has that ring thing.
Oh, the camera.
Yeah, so now when I knock on doors, I'm making sure my hair looks nice, hi. No, in all seriousness, no, there's and I would say the further out of the historic ring you go, there's more crime. So I talked to Chief Baker about that. And this is really cool, and some residents have done it, is there are ways to vandalize proof, is that the word, your home. And they will, as a free service, the police will come out and evaluate your home. Things you don't even think about, like if your trash bins are lined up against the house, they can climb up. Anyways, but that really concerned me that I thought, I get as well as you do, I get the police report every day, and there's a lot of car thefts, but breaking into homes is a whole different thing.
Well, you'd mentioned a couple of neighborhoods, Murray Hill and the Historic District, and I think we probably should sort of define what Ward 1 is for those that are listening, and is the Historic District, the downtown by the City Dock, and then it extends out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It includes, if you go You could say Westgate Circle it goes out as far as that, but it also is, I think of it as the left side, but I guess it would be the south side of Spa Road, Silipana. So on both sides of Spa Creek out there, it's amazing that there's a lot of property in Ward 1 that is on Spa Creek, on this side of Spa Creek. And when you go out to Silipana, they're on both sides. And then also, it goes out and we incorporate Bloomsbury Square, which people, don't know. That was one of my goals as Ward 1 president to reach out to them. Say, hey guys, you're part of Ward 1, and not only are you part of Ward 1, you set a great example. I don't know if I would ride my bike to Grawls and just, see the yards and the gardens and just people outside chatting on their porches and said, this is a great neighborhood. And I'm really, really, really happy that Jackie Wells, she's actually not only is she a member of the Ward 1 Residents Association, she's vice president now, so I'm really happy about that.
As you're walking around and as you're going to be a representative if elected to the city as well as Ward 1, do you find that the concerns of Ward 1 are the same citywide, or does the city have a different issue?
Well, parking is pretty much...
not so much of an issue in my Ward 7.
It's indigenous to Ward 1, unfortunately, and it's probably because we just have this small piece of real estate and lots of cars, and as SP Plus, our management company, even said in their report, they issue... I find this funny. It's not funny. They issue more residential stickers than there are available places. So of course you're going to have a problem, so it's like you get home and you're doing this musical chairs on finding a place to park. Parking is not an issue, in other words, but decisions that are made on the city level primarily affect Ward 1. I wrote an op-ed the other week because I was really... And I didn't mean it to point fingers or anything, but it was the aftermath of the Market House decision, and there was this back and forth joking, about what happens downtown after 2 a.m., and just sort of, joking about it in good fun, I don't really know what happens. And I thought, whoa, that decision was made on the city level, and it affects Ward 1, so you have to, I guess I could think of the Ward 1 as sort of the heartbeat of Annapolis. And there's a lot of decisions made on the city level it affect Ward 1 pretty profoundly because it is really the central business district.
Okay.
It's the central business district. Anything relating to businesses or, parking. But I wouldn't say Ward 1 should be looked at any, more special, but it does have a big impact on the other wards.
Again, Ward 1 is fairly dense. It's fairly developed. Development is another buzzword that's going on, specifically in Ward 4 or 5 with Crystal Spring, Providence Point. Over in Eastport, you've got Eastport Landing as well. What's your stance on development? Are we doing this right? Are we doing it wrong?
My background is civil engineering, and getting a civil engineering degree, you take courses in urban design, and then when you focus in construction management, of course, you understand a lot of that. And then I worked for Turner Construction, which is a major construction company, for 30 years. So I know Development 101. And so when I see some of these arguments on density, I'm flabbergasted. I mean, density calculations, as I said, is Development 101. And the fact that there is even a conflict, it's a numerator over a denominator. Anyways, as far as development specific to Ward 1, we have limited opportunities to get it right in Ward 1. And that's really unfortunate. And it appears that Ward 1 seems to be the place to get a lot of revenue. The decision on 110 Compromise Street was made for revenue. The decision on the rec center was made on property tax. And I don't feel resentful about that. I just feel like it's unfortunate that, whoa, wait a minute. You're making a decision on a critical piece of real estate that we will not have the opportunity to develop again, the old rec center. I mean, that's a big deal. And the decision was purely based on property tax. I feel like let's look at other development areas, but also let's look at it smartly. I mean, I know, I think I don't live in Eastport. I go to Adam's Ribs 4 times a month, and I look at that old movie theater and say, gee, something's got to happen here. But I can understand the concerns specifically about traffic. The other thing I see as far as, from my experience, the user in development, the user has to be brought in from the beginning. And that usually means a successful project. When you bring in people that are going to use the space, they don't come in the 11th hour and say, this is wrong. And also the traffic study has to be done early, and it has to be a third-party traffic study. And I don't see that happening here. I mean, Crystal Springs, I still can't answer who's done a traffic study, and in Eastport, I don't know who's done the traffic study, and if it's... So those things, I mean, I'm prepared to address those issues, but I know that I'm getting into a real complicated... it appears a mess. I mean, when you build, you have clear specifications, and I read what Pete Gutwell was citing for his justification on his density calculation, and with my 30 years experience, I did not understand it. I have to admit, I did not. There's definitely something wrong here. So I think that you could get interns from University of Maryland that are studying construction management, and they could go through that code, our code, and streamline it so that we can do smart development.
I'm not seeing any kind of a sweep on the election. I'm not seeing all Democrats or all Republicans. How you are running as a Democrat, how are you planning to work and reach across the aisle to your Republican counterparts on the council or a Republican mayor? Oh my God, absolutely. As you know, I'm a policy, I'm a nerd. I go to city council. As Ward 1 president, I went to every city council meeting I could. And God love them, but, the optics sometimes are just awful. That they're positioning, and anti-mayoral, whatever, and it's just not working. And so we have to have more of a collaborative effort. And to do that, we need to get along. The recent example with Chief Baker mentioning Trump's name and the mayor getting upset about that could have been talked about a little bit differently, so it wasn't a clear party line issue. When I started as Ward 1 president 3 years ago, there were names heard, that were people that were very instrumental in city decisions, or, the Mr. Blonders and the this and that. And my focus was just getting people together. I mean, I had a Ward 1 meeting at the Market House, and Harvey Blonder hosted it. It was great. And the mayor came, and I mean, I love bringing people together. It challenges me. I mean, I learned that in construction. It's in my DNA. I mean, I come from a family of 7. Just looking, and you said you've been a little bit of a policy wonk. As Ward 1, you've been at the city council meetings, a fixture for many years, I guess.
Yeah.
As you look back on the last 4 years of this particular administration, and by administration, let's say it's the council and the mayor, what 1 or 2 initiatives, decisions have they made that you look back and go, oh my God, what the heck were they thinking? Why? What has come out of this council that you say there's no way I ever would have done that?
Actually, that's part of the reason why I chose to run, because there was, my angst was, gosh, these are big decisions, and these decisions are made on the council level. So if I can't, I think I'll run. So here's one that sort of was emblematic of a lot of issues, and it was the 110 compromise decision. And the alderman will say, look, what was before us was to look and see if it was a zoning change. And I went to, as Ward 1, we were definitely in the minority, because we understood, not to say that other people didn't, but we understood what this was doing. And it was changing the maritime zoning, and it could have a snowball effect. In other words, we're bailing out, really. We're not going to get maritime businesses along City Dock. And what people didn't understand, it was a pretty sizable area. And we're going to change the percentage so we can get a viable business in here. And it made economic sense. But I saw people get up there and testify that had worked on the maritime study 12 years ago or longer. They're now testifying that they were given up on maritime, and then 20 years ago it was like, really, we have to invest in maritime. This is our livelihood. This is our reputation. And it was just all sort of thrown away. And I thought, whoa, wait a minute. City Dock Master Plan, was just sort of pigeonholed. And here we are, year or whatever, how many, and we've got a skeleton of steel up there with the two nice developers that are probably kind of thinking right now. Why I think that was a bad decision was on many fronts. Number one, we let faucets, sort of hold the city hostage. There's no other way of saying it. Nobody could afford to buy that project without, and I think you see that right now, that they pay a lot of money for that. We have opportune sites, they're called that in the City Dock Master Plan. 110 Compromise was one of them, an opportune site. And I think that we should have weighed that decision more carefully. And I would have gone outside the box if I was on the council and asked, because they were, the developers were testifying, I would have asked them, hey, by the way, are you talking to 3 restaurants? That's what we're talking about here. You guys are selling this because you're going to have a waterfront restaurant. Are you talking to 3? Ask that question. Yeah. And what are they? Are they, Hooters or whatever? Let's find out now. The other one was the old rec center. Damn, that was critical mass with me. And actually in Ward 1, even the board of Ward 1 at the time, we were mixed. But personally, being on the board, we were very fortunate because we got to meet with everybody that was making a proposal, the short list. First off, and I remember I wrote a guest column about that whole RFP process. You thought the Market House was bad. That one, I mean, that was the one where it was run by procurement. They shortlisted it. The city council said, oh, by the way, we want to be involved in this decision. And so they opened it up again. That's just not the way you handle an RFP. So they got a new shortlist, and I think you remember it was St. Mary's and the University of Maryland College of Environmental Science. Did I mention environmental science?
Right.
And then this developer that came in. Again, we have limited real estate in Ward 1. This is another opportune site. The City Dock Master Plan said, let's look at this old rec center, maybe make it something that can have some opportunity to have, they wanted to have some kind of conference room or whatever in it. It passed that the 10 condo units, because of course, property tax. University of Maryland, I know from my experience that they have great architects. They would have done an amazing job making that place look great. It was a lease situation. I understand that, but that's when you look at the long term. That's when you have a vision and you say, we got it. They wanted to make Annapolis their hub. University of Maryland College of Environmental Science wanted to make downtown Annapolis their hub. How can you not say yes to that? I mean, think that is a great idea for the future of downtown. And you get the professors, you get the visitors that are going there for studies, you get the publicity of stuff they're studying. It's just, and not to say that there weren't other, I think Shakespeare Theater wanted to go there. There were other, and then the other thing that was unfortunate was there was a housing proposal for moderate housing. It wasn't the 9 or 10 condos. Right. It was more affordable housing. Mm-hmm. And that's a win-win.
I'd like to know if the city is facing bankruptcy or insolvency, which, and I don't want to argue whether it is or it isn't, but let's just say for a minute that it is. As Alderwoman, what's on the table for you to help right that ship?
My last 10 years with Turner Construction, I was a pre-construction manager. We were given a budget. The last project that I was on was a $900 million Fort Belvoir Community Hospital. So you get a budget, and you get about 40 pieces there. And if one thing is over, I used to always do, we did a programmatic estimate, which I was really excited that the city was going to, put their budget into programmatic form, but that went, I don't know if that went away. But anyways, so I would do a programmatic, I would take their budget and divide it up into, as you know, a project or a building is multiple trades, like 40. And I would do this pie chart and just say, okay, this is what you have for mechanical. I'll keep it simple. This is what you have for the structure. This is what you have for the exterior wall. This is this and this and this. And so then you'd have a design charrette. And this is the process that I would do for this city. It's a $100 million budget. And if, what's our focus? What's our priorities? That's why I really wanted to push that programmatic format I guess it was a lot of work to do that. But, okay, right now it's safety. Right now it's, infrastructure. Okay, well, we got to take it out of something, and you got to work hard, and we got to do it. I mean, why not? What is, and one of the things, every city in the country has the pension problem. There isn't one city that doesn't have that pension problem. So I applaud addressing the safety issue. I applaud that. But you've got to realize when you add 10, sorry, Chief Baker, but when you add, I think it is 10, you got to think long term. The last thing I know are layoffs and stuff, but there is we've got to really look at how we spend the money. And I asked Jared and Ian, I know they're leaving, but they're very adept at the finances. And I asked them, what happened to that programmatic format? Because you could really see what the return, what I call it like return on staff. This is how much money these departments are spending, but this is what we get in return. It's a really good way to evaluate the efficiency of a department. Planning and zoning. What is the return on staff? We might find out that they're really understaffed for what they do. So I think we're at a crisis point. Well, we're at a point where we just have to stop and evaluate. And this is a big deal. And it hasn't happened in the last 4 years. And I understand, the Democrats having a position, but on this one, it has to be a collaborative effort. Because, Republicans are not spenders. That's the irony of it. And we have to, I'm not saying it just because I love construction. I do. It's in my DNA. I love smart growth. But inevitably, we have to rebuild Tillman, and we should have been looking at that. I know if I was on the city council 4 years ago, that thing would be built. I would have found a way to build it, and we would have solved the employee parking problem downtown. That's it. It's just like you got to start thinking that way. And I hate to use the term visionary because it's just so overused, but it's really it's called programming in my experience. Okay. So these terms are too short, and you got to start thinking now.
How much time are you expecting to dedicate to your alderwoman duties?
Full time. No, I'm a small business now. I'm a small business owner, and I think if I'm of the philosophy is the more you do, the more you do. And I tell you, after my term as Ward 1 president was up in June, and I feel like I have all this time in my hands. I'm thinking of Ward 1 as I'm making beds in the morning. I have a 4-room bed and breakfast. You could call it my hobby. My husband and I own it. My husband also works outside the inn. Majority of our business is on the weekends and kind of trickles during the week. But unlike most people, I'm available, my weekends, my work week are my weekends, and I'm pretty much available during the week.
How do you specifically plan to keep in touch with your constituents in Ward 1 if you're elected?
Oh, gosh, that's my favorite part. I just love talking to people. And so actually, I thought of this idea, and then I heard that Dick Israel did it, and I did not know this because I was hanging out in 49 West, and I said to Brian Callahan, I said, can I just have this table if I win? I can just meet here every Sunday afternoon. And he's like, that's what Dick Israel used to do. And I said, really? I do plan on doing that if I'm successful. I would like to have a weekly meeting point just to talk about issues. as Jared does, and Alderman Budge does, obviously a weekly, not a weekly. It was what's coming up in the city council, which I have to take. Ward 1 Residents Association has to take credit for, because we would be so upset the agenda wouldn't come out until like the day before or something. So now at least they're a little bit.
So newsletters and a table at 49 West.
That's it. Yep.
And there you go, as well as some other ones. Let me get a little philosophical here with you. And they've always said that there's two Annapolises. And we're always trying to move toward this one Annapolis because there is a gap between the two. And on one end of the gap, we've got, to stereotype things a little bit, you've got the rich white folk that live down on the waterfront mansions. And on the other end, you've got poor, primarily Latino, Hispanic, African Americans that may be in public housing or subsidized housing. Not going to be solved anytime soon, not going to be solved by one person. One person can make a difference. So sitting on the city council, what steps, where do you think we need to do to start to move that needle to close that gap a little bit?
Well, first off, it was Nevin Young last night at the debate said a very startling thing about how he thought Annapolis was one of the more segregated cities. And that is, I talked to people out at, the outskirts of Ward 1, and they used to live, and they're African American, and they used to live on my street. My inn used to be the Black Corner store in a Black neighborhood. And when I moved there was just Mary McGowan's family in one house that was African American. Just one family left. That says something. That there was this. And I'm sure it had something to do with the gentrification and all that, and it also it's a systemic problem because there's some vacant houses in historic Annapolis on East Street and Fleet Street that have stay abandoned because nobody knows how to. There's no owner. It's grandma's house, and anyway, so that it's a really sad time in Annapolis. So yeah, there are two Annapolises in that sense. So I think one light at the end of the tunnel there is affordable housing, and again it has to do with infrastructure and some planning. Perhaps we can get some affordable housing downtown. Seriously, I look at those second floor spaces. And that's an opportunity and I'm not talking about, just a real estate opportunity and, I'm not talking about, Airbnbs or anything. I'm talking about homes, condos, whatever. Look how successful Uptown was on West Street, the Uptown development. Yep. Now that's a little bit higher end, but those I think they're just now flipping, not for lack of better
reselling.
Words. They're just now reselling just a couple of them, So, but if we get permanent housing downtown, second floor, I know, there's talk about potentially developing the SunTrust Bank into apartments. That's some solution. But also, as I said, when I was Ward 1 president, just a lot of it has to do with relationships. Just get to know people, from the African American caucus. I've been a member now for 3+ years, and I tell you, you just have to build relationships. It's baby steps, and it's really important.
I'll tell you, we're wrapping up here. I can't vote for you. Why does Elly want to run? Mm-hmm. Why should somebody that lives in Ward 1 vote for Elly Tierney for Alderwoman for Ward 1?
Well, I tell you, I think I even met with you. I remember before I decided officially to run, I talked to a lot of people because I realized it was a serious undertaking. It's not something, I think I'm retired, I think I'll take this up. Sort of the stars aligned in the sense, and I addressed this earlier, I worked in construction for a long time. I have a civil engineering degree. It's almost like there's this great opportunity for me to utilize my skills. I am so ready for this. I'm excited. It's going to be a challenge if I'm successful, but everything I learned I can put into implementation, a collaborative approach, from when I don't want to think of Annapolis as a job site, but it was funny because the other day I was walking around and I ran into David Jarrell.
Okay.
And I said, what? I said, oh, you're walking around, and he says, yep. He says, Annapolis is a walkable city. And what it reminded me of is when I was working, on the job site. There was a superintendent, and he'd walk the job every night, and he would get an idea of what to address the following morning. And I get like that on Sunday nights, and I'll walk around downtown when things are quiet, and I realize some of the things that are wonderful, they're just beautiful, and I do love this town, and then things that have to be fixed. And I thought, this is like, my approach is like a job in that sense, to keep it clean, keep it safe. If there's any development on time, on budget, quality, safe, that all of my skills are going to come to perfect use in the challenges that we face.
Where do we learn more about Elly Tierney? You got a website, Facebook?
I do. I
have. Stalk you at your business?
Yeah, I'm there. I know. I am. You just have to. Maggie's very friendly. She's my dog. I have a Facebook page. I try to keep current. And www.friendsofEllyTierney.com is probably the best. And then...
now, let me interrupt real quick, and we'll spell this because we've gotten a little bit weird, but it's Elly.
Yes.
Tierney. And it's Tierney.
Yes.
FriendsofEllyTierney.com. Also, you can find her on Facebook.
Same thing, Friends of Elly Tierney. And my cell, 410-231-1316. Call me anytime.
All right. Well, Elly Tierney, thank you very much for joining us here at City Dock Coffee down on beautiful market space. Down a beautiful day with no humidity.
I know, it's beautiful.
Best of luck in the election. And just a reminder to everybody, make sure you get out and vote in the primary, which is on September 19th. And the general election follows up on November 7th. Maryland has closed primaries, so you have to be registered as a Republican or a Democrat in order to vote in the primary. However, you can go whichever way you want in the general election in November. Thank you very much. So there you have it. Answers from a candidate or alderperson in the city of Annapolis. Did they answer anything that was on your mind? If not, make sure you get in touch with them so you can make the best vote come September 19th in the primary election. Be sure to keep up to speed on the election at eyeonannapolis.net and also on the MarylandCrabs.com. It is an important election this year, so it is so important to get out and vote. And speaking of voting, the primary is on September 19th and the general election is on November 7th. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And after the primary, look for an announcement from us about a mayoral debate between the two survivors. Just like the forum in June, Eye on Annapolis and the Maryland Crabs will bring this to you, but this time it'll be structured more as a debate rather than a forum. Thank you for listening to this special election crab cake episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Maryland Crabs podcast. We have fresh stuff that drops every Thursday at noon.